Hello and welcome back to episode 6 of the 25 Days Survival Multiplayer series, where we play on a survival multiplayer server. And in the last episode we did some amazing stuff with auto storage systems, and before that we set up our guardian farm and drained our ocean monument on the inside. We're making a lot of progress, and in this episode we're going to make even more. There's going to be a lot of sand collecting, but I will do my very best to edit it in a way that makes it interesting. There's some other stuff that's going to happen. I'm not going to spoil it, you're just going to have to watch. This is episode 6, days 126 to 150. If you find yourself enjoying this episode, why not consider subscribing, maybe leave a little like for us. A lot of time and effort goes into these episodes, so I really hope that you enjoy it. My bow has Unbreaking 3 and Infinity, but it's not enough. I need to find a way to give it some more power. Oh look, power. And that's pretty much what I did on day 126. I learned that I could have more power by taking power 4 and making power 5. Now I had power coming out of my ears. I had a bow that was so powerful it was going to wipe the faces of creepers when it hit them. And I've not made a donation to Rick in a while, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Not that he needs my help to play this game, because he put so much time and effort into the Nether tunnels, died a couple of times, so it's only fair that we help him rebuild. Talking of rebuilding, let's go and spend some diamonds. I need to beef up my tools a little bit as well, actually. So I went and I bought myself some books ranging from mending to unbreaking. I came across this market stall that was like an auction for chain fitter. I don't really understand it, so I'm just going to leave it alone. I saw this sign that Piehead owed 2 diamonds, and I thought, it's Christmas, let's spread some Christmas cheer. So I paid the 2 diamonds and said it was from Santa. I need these ender chests. And the shopping district looks great at the moment, but just you wait. And all of these market stalls are supposed to be temporary, but I really hope that this tree stays here. It's a good source of wood, and it looks really pretty, like a Christmas tree. Do you remember the fire tree from episode 3 that I said would be a permanent feature? Yeah, that's gone. It's day 128 and we are flying back to base through the Nether at warp speed. Why? Because we need to build up a bit of a better staging area here within our base, so that we've actually got somewhere where we can work from without having to rely on the auto sorter, because it's not quite there yet. It's like a second starter base, but not quite as extravagant. I'm only putting the chests in here, and then here I spent some time just sorting out my inventory into all of these manual chests before we can go and assign slots in the auto sorter for all of these individual items to go into, because I still haven't figured that out in my head yet. This poor guy got completely stitched up by his hairdresser. He tried to take his frustration out on me, but I was having none of it. I was pretty annoyed that he'd interrupted me sorting out my inventory, so I went and found his distant cousin, and I killed him. I wanted to connect the base up a little bit better, so I started working on a path going from our staging area to our auto sorter. I was very confused about where these mobs were spawning, and then I finally accepted that my underground tree wasn't going to work. I carried on with the pathway using prismarine brick slabs. Just as I finished, Ori murdered a horse. On day 130, I was back at the shopping district at my favourite tree shop, but they didn't have the wood that I needed, so I went out and collected some more. Why did I need all of this wood? For placeholders in the auto sorter, and on day 131 I fell in this hole. I'd actually come out to the mesa to look for some acacia trees, but I was there for all of day 131, still wandering around the mesa biome of an evening, and by the time the next day came, I was still wandering around the mesa biome. It was huge. I saw some trees off in the distance, but by the time I got there I realised they were just really grubby oak trees. So I carried on searching across the mesa, and I went thousands and thousands of blocks, and eventually I came across the acacia trees that I was looking for. But not yet, no, I'm still looking. Still looking. Oh, there they are! So now I've got acacia, jungle, birch, oak, dark oak, all the things that I need to put into my sorting system as placeholders. But now it was time for me to make my way back, and the sun was starting to set, and I was still out in the mesa when night time hit and mobs started spawning all around me. It was time for me to haul ass back home. I did come across this structure that looked like it was built by someone, and it had a light near it. Then Silver Saiyan slept, which was amazing, but the timing was impeccable because I'd found this little hut with a bed in it, so I could have slept the night away myself, but that's fine. All these zombies came out, they were on fire, they weren't happy with me. I ran away and left them to burn in the sunlight, but I was getting worried that I wasn't going to be able to find my way back home, and then in the distance I saw it, some sort of tower, and by the time I got over there I realised it was Scuba Owl's base, and I'd been here before to use Owl's trading hall, so I jumped through their portal. And now that I had all of the different wood types, I was able to put placeholders into the auto sorter system so that I could just load items up into the deposit chest and it would work its way around the system and land in the right place. I had the jungle wood, oak wood, birch wood. I had all different stone types, from stone bricks to smooth stone to deep slate to cobbled deep slate, and I had all my rare resources including redstone and lapis, and of course prismarine and all of those variants too. Now I could really begin to use the system. But one thing that I didn't have was sand, and it had just been announced on the Discord that the community sand mine had been located and assigned, and I was heading there to get sand because I needed this to drain the ocean monument. When I arrived, it was in a village, which was amazing. I decided I was going to set up a little base here, a little test mine just to see what the block lag was going to be like, and it wasn't too bad. I decided this was going to be okay to proceed, so I got back to working on the little base. I just needed somewhere to sleep the night away, but this little house was just a bit too small, so I decided to poke through the wall and turn these two houses into one. Now this isn't just for me, I wanted anyone to be able to find refuge here. But when I got home and loaded my sand into the auto sorter, there was a problem. It wasn't reaching its end destination. So I popped up to the auto sorter and had a look to see if I could troubleshoot what was up. I saw that my sand filter was working properly, so it meant that the sand must be getting stuck somewhere. And it took me a little while of just searching around, trying to find what was wrong, looking for missing torches or looking for hoppers that were facing the wrong way. And I was here for a good 2 days just trying to troubleshoot this. But eventually I found the sand and I realized what was wrong. This hopper was pointing in the wrong direction. So I very carefully, very sheepishly started to remove some hoppers and plopped them back in the right way, facing the right direction. And when I put my sand back in, I waited nervously for it to reach its destination. I had big plans for the section down here. I wanted to do something pretty epic with it, but I needed a better way of getting up and down. So I started construction on a water elevator and a puddle of water for me to fall down into. Now for some reason, a lot of the footage for this ended up getting lost, but I did complete this and it does work. And on day 139, I started working on a new strip mine, but this time at wire level 0. Well, actually -1, but I'm gonna fill this in with cobblestone. I came across gold and some other valuable resources, and then I popped up the top to notice that I was encompassed by some strange black wall square. I figured Rick was working on something, so I jumped in the nether and went back to the community sand mining desert because I needed a lot more sand for my purposes. And days 140 to 144 were spent just doing the same thing, mining sand, collecting as much as I could. I'm really struggling with this part of the episode, really not sure what to say about this and make it more interesting. I could tell some sand jokes, I suppose. What do you call an hourglass with no sand in it? A waste of time. Why was the sand wet? Because the seaweed. What would you find on a haunted beach? A sandwich. What's the difference between sand and a dildo? I've never had sand up my... On day 145, something comparatively exciting happened, and I made the community sand mine entrance stand out a little bit more so that we could find it easier as we shoot past in our boats. After all that mining, I wanted to do a little bit of work on the base, so I started getting rid of this moss and instead started to replace it with some pathway. And you guessed it, there were a load of slimes to deal with whilst I was working on this. I used prismarine brick slabs to keep with the theme of the base, and I built up this staircase to where the bees live. I found these diamonds and mined those out, which was quite nice to add to my stockpile. Then the slime started rolling in, so I took them on one by one and dispatched of them. I decided at this point that I was not going to make a slime farm, I just didn't need it. My base was starting to look pretty good. The glowberries, lanterns, prismarine and moss was really starting to come together, so I carried on building a pathway to my abandoned mine shaft before testing for the first time my auto sorter properly, and it worked a treat. Everything ended up exactly where I had intended for it to end up. So I celebrated by running quite precariously along these glass panes in the nether, and I made my way over to the guardian farm because I needed to repair my shovel because I had a lot more sand that I needed to collect, and this is quite satisfying. Of course the benefit of using a Guardian farm for XP is all of the drops that we get, so I made myself some more sea lanterns. And the next thing that I needed was coal, so I went back to the starter base, slept through the night, said hey to Doggo because I hadn't seen him in a while, and on day 147 I went and started a strip mine at Y level 72 in the hopes of coming across some coal, and I did, so now I could make some torches. I built a walkway here so that I didn't fall down this hole every time I wanted to get into the mine, and I built up around the outside. I flattened out this dirt here so that I had a little bit of easier access, and then I started poking through looking for more coal. I was in the middle of an important task when Ori suddenly popped up with the fact that she didn't own any carrots, but the panic was over pretty quickly because she had some all along. I had to build the framework that marked out the dimensions of the ocean monument that I was going to need to fill in or clear out of water. I went 54 blocks in all 4 directions from the center. This is what it looked like from an aerial view, and now I needed to do the perimeter, but I had run out of netherrack, so I went back into the nether tunnel and started clearing out one of the walls because I knew I was going to want to decorate this anyway. And once I had the netherrack that I needed, I went back to the ocean monument and started placing the perimeter down, and this became so much easier when I realized that I could do it quicker once I was in the water. So I got in the water and just started placing blocks. By the end of the day, I had completed the perimeter. I was now in a position where I could start placing sand down, and as I gazed upon the ocean monument, the Guardian farm, the perimeter that was all coming together quite nicely, someone slept and day 149 came about, and I was very happy with the progress that we made. But we still had one day left, and what we were going to do with that day, we're going to prep the ocean monument for sand placement, and that means blocking off any holes like this because they're just going to swallow the sand whole, and we don't want that. We don't want to waste the sand. I also went around and I removed all of the kelp that was in the perimeter so that I could make sure that sand that touched it didn't then turn into an item, turn into a sprite. I collected all of this kelp and decided I was going to turn this into a fuel source because what else am I going to do with it really? As the sun set on day 149, I admired what we'd done so far. Then I went and popped all of that kelp into the smelter so that it could turn into dried kelp and I could use that for fuel in the future. And on day 50 we were finally ready to start placing sand. That's been the hardest episode yet in terms of trying to make it interesting. How interesting, honestly, can you make sand collection? It's a little bit strange. And I know that next episode, it's all going to be about placing sand. So we're going to mix in some extra stuff as well. We're going to go visit Story Industries, who are taking the economy by storm. They've pretty much monopolised the entire shopping district so far. But Rick and I, that's exactly what we're working on. We're working on our own industrial area so that we can put shops out there in the shopping districts, and we will do our very best to undercut them. But first, I've got to collect that sand. I've got to put that sand down and make sure that we drain out the ocean monument, because you can't build farms underwater. Redstone and water, they don't go so well together. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're new here and you like what you've seen, why not hit that subscribe button? It will really support the channel and support me. But more importantly, you'll get notified about the next episode that comes out, which will be coming out very soon, of course. And of course, if you've been here for a while, you're already subscribed, your support is very much appreciated. Honestly, you're awesome. Thanks so much for tuning back in, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya. I know this is the end of the video and I'm supposed to stop talking, but there's a couple of corrections that I need to make. First of all, I said day 50 and I meant day 150 right at the end of this episode. Secondly, we said we'd undercut Story Industries. That's not true. We're just going to compete. Also, I've still got the after effects of having COVID, so my voice has been a bit off. Sorry about that. I hope you still enjoyed the episode.